Hello all, welcome to the Mastering of YouTube channel. So today in our classes in the foundation and plant physiology and anatomy, we are going to discuss about cell wall structure and its biochemical properties. Okay, so let's start with our class. So first introduction, like in every class, first we will know what is the basic, that is what is cell wall. So cell wall, it is a thick porous outer protective covering in bacteria, fungi and plants. Note that animals don't have cell wall, okay, and it can provide rigidity and strength to the cells. Another major function of the cell wall is to facilitate cell to cell interaction, and cell walls are absent in animals, okay. So this point, cell wall is absent in animals, it's important to note. And coming about a short history about the cell wall, the plant cell wall was first observed and named simply a wall, okay. So the first observation in the cell wall, it was first simply named as a wall, and it was observed by Robert Hooke in 1665. So the plant cell wall composition, let's first know what are the basic composition, from what all things this plant cell wall is made up of. It is made up of cellulose, hemicellulose, pectins and proteins, okay. Now importance of cell wall. Why we need cell wall? We need cell wall for the support and structure. It maintains the shape and integrity of the cell, okay. So cell wall, they don't change their shape, they have a rigid structure, that's why they are known as rigid structures, okay. So they are rigid and they maintains the shape and structure of the cell. Protection. So the cell wall acts as a barrier against pathogens and physical injuries. Then transport, and as we already said that they have a cell to cell interaction, they facilitate transport of nutrients and water. Then cell communication involved in the signaling through plasmodesmatal connections. Plasmodesmata, we know that is a connection between two cells, we learned in the previous classes. Okay, now cell wall of different species, okay, this one you need to know, this is majorly asked in many in exam point of view, okay. So this plant cells, okay, in land plants, okay. In land plants, the primary cell wall composed of polysaccharides like cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin. Okay, so in land plants, the primary cell wall composed of cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin, and in case of algae, glycoproteins and polysaccharides are present. And in case of bacterial cells, they have bacterial cells, peptidoglycan is present, and in case of archaeal bacteria, that is primitive bacteria, the cell wall comprises of, in composition potentially, of glycoprotein S layers, pseudo peptidoglycan and polysaccharides. The fungi cell wall possesses of polymer chitin, okay. So what all are there in plants? Okay, now in land plants, they are made up of cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin. Algae, it is made up of glycoproteins and polysaccharides, composed of glycoproteins and polysaccharides. Bacterial cell, they are contain peptidoglycan, and archaeal cells, their composition, they vary in composition, okay. Potentially they consist of glycoprotein S layers and pseudopeptidoglycan or polysaccharides. Now the fungi cell wall is constructed from the polymer chitin. So these are all the different compositions in different species of species in which the cell wall is present. So see, this is the cell wall, okay. This is the structure of cell wall. We can see this is the internal part of the cell, and we can see our outer covering, okay. Take this single cell as an example. We are taking this single cell in comparison with these two cells, okay. So we have plasma membrane. Plasma membrane, they are not a part of cell wall, okay. Plasma membrane is a separate membrane, but for comparing different layers, we are taking here the note of plasma membrane. So we have plasma membrane covering the covering the cytoplasm. We have plasma membrane, and around plasma membrane there is a secondary cell wall is present, and around the secondary cell wall primary cell wall is present. Primary, these we will study about these structures in these different layers in coming slides. Now we have outside of this primary cell wall we have middle lamella. So this middle lamella, this one is connects between two cells. This one is the, what we can say, this one is the glue that connects the two cells and provide the interactions through plasmodesmata, cell to cell interactions through plasmodesmata. Okay, so let's see. Outside the plasma membrane we have secondary cell wall, and outside them primary cell wall is present, and middle lamella is present on the outermost part that connects between two cells. Okay, those secondary cell wall, they are not always present in everything. We will compare this primary and secondary cell wall in the coming classes, coming slides. Now let's discuss about each layers of the plant cell wall. So first of all, the primary cell wall. Here we are going to discuss about the plant cell wall. Okay, so the first of all, primary cell wall. The composition of primary cell wall, it is made up of cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin, and it contains proteins and other polysaccharides also. Then the characteristics of this primary cell wall is, it is thin, flexible, allowing the cell growth and expansion. So this primary cell wall, they are they provide for, they are made during the, they evolve during the growth of the cell. Okay, so they are made during the growth of the cell. That's why they help in growth and expansion, and they are thin and flexible. On these primary cell wall, they are rich in pectins, which provide a gel-like matrix and contribute to cell adhesion. Okay, for the gluing between the cells, gluing of the cells. Okay, so they have rich in pectins. The function is they provide structural support while allowing for growth. Okay, so whenever the cell attains the full growth, then only the secondary cell wall forms. Before that, during the growth phases and all, the primary cell wall is the major layer of the cell that helps in the protection. And also it acts as a barrier to pathogen and helps regulate water and nutrient exchange. This one is the same as the importance here we studied in the cell wall point. Now about the secondary cell wall, their main composition, they are mainly composed of cellulose and lignin with lesser amount of hemicellulose and pectin. The exact composition can vary significantly from different types of cells. Okay, the composition of these compositions of this cell wall, secondary cell wall, they vary upon different types of cells. Okay, the characteristics, they are thicker. Okay, while before that, in case of this primary cell wall, they were thin and flexible, and in case of the secondary cell wall, they are thicker and more rigid than primary cell wall, typically laid down after the cell has stopped growing. Okay, so when the cell has grown to a level, grown to its maximum level, or when the cell achieves maturity, and again when the cell won't grow, they forms this secondary cell wall. And before that, we have a primary cell wall. This one helps during the growth of the cell, and after attaining the whole growth, when the growth is stopped, the formation of the secondary cell wall occurs. They provide additional strength and rigidity to the cell, offers protection against physical and environmental stresses, and enhance water resistance. Okay, these are the composition, characteristics and functions of secondary cell wall. Now coming to the middle lamella. The composition, they are primarily made of pectin and particularly homoglycoterone. Okay, so basically I just mispronounced it. It is homogalactronin. This is actually, it's basically a linear polymer. We don't need to know about all those things. Okay, that is this composition of middle lamella, they have pectin and particularly this homogalactronin is present. Now the characteristics of this middle lamella, it is a gelatinous layer that cements adjacent plant cells together. Okay, so they just cements the two cells together for the cell-to-cell interactions and all. Okay, and the function is it facilitates cell adhesion and communication, plays a role in overall stability of the plant tissue. So these were all the composition, characteristics and function of the middle lamella. And now we have plasma membrane. Although this plasma membrane is not a cell wall, not a layer of cell wall, but it is important to note that the plasma membrane lies just beneath the cell wall. Okay, so this plasma membrane, this covers the cytoplasm, and around this cytoplasma membrane we have the cell wall. Outside this plasma membrane we have a cell wall. Okay, the function of plasma membrane is regulates the transport of substances in and out of the cell and contributes to the overall function of the cell. So basically this plasma membrane, this one helps in a selective transfer of materials from inside to outside the cell. Basically all these cell wall, they just help the self protection from the pathogens and all, but this plasma membrane, they act as the selective membrane. Now this is the structure of cell wall. We have pectin is there, cellulose microfibril is there, hemicellulose is present, and soluble proteins are just embedded here and there in the cell wall. So this one here, it is the middle lamella, and this one is the primary cell wall, and then plasma membrane is present. This secondary cell wall, they are mainly in the they are present in the xylem cells and all. So this secondary cell wall, they are not always seen in the structures of the cell wall. That's why while the cell is growing, and majorly all the cells, they contain the middle lamella, primary cell wall membrane, and inside they have plasma membrane. These are the functions of the cell wall. Functionality of the cell wall, it's just the simple thing that we discussed in this in all these slides. They are the support and shape. They maintain a structural integrity of the cell and helps to determine its shape. Then for protection against barrier against mechanical injury and pathogen invasion, and regulation of the water movement. The porous nature allows for the transport of water and nutrients by preventing excessive loss. Okay, so we in the introduction part we read that the cell wall is porous. Okay, so that's why due to this porous nature, the transport of water and nutrients helps while it also prevents the excessive loss of these water and nutrients. Now the cell growth, the primary cell wall is flexible, allowing for the cell expansion during the growth. Now cell communication, it contains plasmodesmata, which are the channels that facilitate communication and transport between adjacent cells. Okay, so basically for the support and shape, we have primary and secondary cell wall. Primary cell wall by the growth, and secondary cell wall after attaining the whole growth. Then the protection, these cell wall itself, all these parts helps in the growth. Now the cell growth, we have primary cell wall majorly, and for cell communication we have middle lamella. That middle lamella, there is also the presence of plasmodesmata. Okay. Now this is the difference of between primary and secondary cell wall. Primary cell wall is formed during the initial growth. Secondary cell wall after attaining the cell growth. Primary cell wall composed of cellulose, hemicellulose, pectin, and some proteins. Secondary cell wall composed of cellulose, chitin, and other complex polysaccharides. Primary cell wall is thinner and more flexible, while the secondary cell wall is thicker and more rigid. Primary cell wall is weaker and more permeable, while secondary cell wall is stronger and less permeable. Primary cell wall contributes to cell growth and expansion, while secondary cell wall, it provides the strength and support. Okay, so this is the difference between primary and secondary cell wall. You can just take a screenshot or write it down. Now the biochemical properties. So coming to the biochemical properties, first we have hydration. So the water retention. The cell wall can absorb and retain water, which is essential for maintaining the turgor pressure within the cell. This pressure helps the plants keep upright and support the cell growth. About this turgor pressure, we already learned in the previous class. Now the hydrophilic nature. Components like pectin and hemicellulose are hydrophilic, allowing for the moisture retention. But do you know what is hydrophilic? They are water loving. Hydro means water and philic means loving. So hydrophilic. So basically these components of the compositions like pectin and hemicellulose, they are hydrophilic in nature. That's why moisture retention will be present. Now the porosity, we already discussed. Selective permeability, that is porosity first of all helps in selective permeability. The cell wall structures allows for the movement of water, ions and small molecules, facilitating nutrients uptake and waste removal. Okay, so basically these all structures, they can be transferred through this cell wall, but majorly you need to know that the plasma membrane, that majorly helps in the selective permeable transport of important nutrients and minerals. Now transport channel, plasmodesmata, microscopic channels are present. They allow the direct communication and transport of substances between adjacent plant cells. Now dynamic remodeling, enzymatic activities and all are present in this part. So the plant cell wall can be remodeled in a response to the growth and environmental stresses or pathogen attack. Enzymes such as cellulases and pectinases break down cell wall components to allow for the expansion or defense. Okay, so basically these enzymatic activities of these enzymes, such as cellulases and pectinases, these helps the cell wall for the defense against the unwanted and stresses or unwanted responses that are happening in the unwanted attacks that are happening in the environment. Now the response to stress. During stress such as drought or injury, the cell wall can alter its composition to enhance the strength of water retention. So I think it's understandable. During the stress conditions and all, the cell wall, they can change their shape. Okay, so they can stay the shape during the stress conditions and all, and help the cell to stay safe. Now defense mechanism, lignification. The incorporation of lignin in secondary cell wall enhances the strength and provides resistance against pathogens and herbivores. So the lignin helps against these pathogens and herbivores in production of antimicrobial compounds. Upon infection, the plants can synthesize specific compounds. Examples are phenolic compounds that strengthen the wall and exhibit microbial growth. Now cell wall composition variability, species composition. Different plant species have unique combinations of cellulose, hemicellulose, pectin and proteins. We already discussed that, affecting the wall properties and functionalities. Okay, so these functionalities, major functions, they can vary upon the different combinations of the composition. So these species specific compositions are present in different species. So different species are present in different types of environments. So these composition, they help the plant to stay in the particular environment, stay healthy and safe in the particular type of environment. Now the tissue specific variation in various plant tissues, example xylem versus phloem. The composition of and structure of the cell wall can vary significantly, tailored to a specific function. They are water transport, nutrient distributions and all. So this based on different types of tissues, the composition and structure of the wall also varies. Now the tensile mechanical properties include the tensile strength. The orientation and density of cellulose fibers provide the wall with a tensile strength crucial for resisting mechanical forces. So this, when the mechanical forces and all occur, the tensile strength, that is they can just resist them by just simply changing or molding according to the force. Okay, so the orientation and density of the cellulose fibers provide wall with tensile strength and crucial for resisting these mechanical forces. Now elasticity and flexibility. The presence of hemicellulose and pectin contributes to the wall's ability to stretch and bend without breaking. Okay, so this wall, the cell wall can stretch and bend without breaking, but this happens only when a stress or something is present. Now the cell communication, signaling molecules. The cell wall can interact with the hormones and signaling molecules, influencing the growth and development process. So the cell wall, they can interact with the hormones and all. Okay, basically the cell walls are the non-living part of the cell, but the compositions are in such a way that they can help and interact with the hormones and between the different cells also. Modification in response to external signals. Changes in the wall properties can occur in response to the environmental cues, allowing the plant to adapt to its surroundings. So this basically this is the same as in the previous two slides. They can change according to the environmental factors affecting. So finally, the biochemical properties of the cell wall are integral to the plant health and functionality. These properties enable plants to grow, communicate and defend themselves, highlighting the importance of the cell wall in plant biology and ecology. So basically the properties of the cell wall, they all are arranged in such a cell wall is arranged and made in such a way that they can withstand or they can provide strength to the plants in any adverse conditions, and also help the cell for the communications between cell to cell and between cell and the outer environment. The application and importance is, it is relevant in agriculture, horticulture and biotechnology fields. Basically in these all fields, the plant related things are all very relevant, and in understanding the plant response to the environmental stresses and implications for food science and nutrition. So these are the applications or majorly importance in studying the cell wall structure and biochemical properties of the cell wall. So that's all with our class. I hope you enjoyed and learned. Thank you.